Hello and welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and lies are punished. But will we catch the lies? This is What's the Fact?
Yes, welcome indeed. I am Ryan Whittal. This is Warren Robertson. But for tonight, please call me Shay.
They don't know that the topic is revolutions. So
nice.
so they think that when you want to be called Shay, you've become a hairdresser in like Belleville. This is not...
Yes. Oh, yeah.
No,
Shay.
because... Yeah.
Yes, I do have the beret, and I don't think, say, Che Guevara's would have had the pom pom at the back.
No,
per se.
no, that is more Shay the hairdresser's beret than it is Shay the revolutionary's beret. But I wasn't going to mention the beret, Ryan, because I thought from afar it actually looks like a real beret. You can't tell that it's been crocheted by your grandmother.
Well, exactly. Who can tell the difference between the sort of grand beret and the Che Guevara beret?
I like to think Che Guevara would have been able to tell the difference, and he would have been very disappointed in you. But like the thing I realized about berets is there's only really three principal types of people that wear berets, right? There's revolutionaries,
Yes.
obviously, which is
Yes.
what you were thinking, right? Like the EFF, Julius Malema, hardcore militant revolutionaries, people prepared to die for their beliefs. Then there's Boy Scouts, and then there's old domestic workers. These are the three kinds of people that wear, because nobody else really wears a beret in modern society.
No, I'd like to bring it back. I think painters, French painters from the when was that?
No.
happening?
I mean, as you say, bring it back. French painters from the 1800s or the 1920s. Yeah, like Frenchmen wearing striped shirts with garlic and onions around their necks, riding a bicycle. They wore berets.
Did you know in Paris there's a mime? This might be urban legend.
Okay.
But I think they take mime very seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's a dude. His name is like the Clock or something. And then he just stands there. And it changes from like 7 o'clock. I've heard. I haven't.
He just
seen
stands there all day doing the clock.
7 o'clock, but you come back in an hour, and it's 8 o'clock. But you won't see him move. He's that good. So, but if you want to go there and busk as a mime chap, just like hey, you put on your thing and hello, box, I'm a mime. Then next thing, a car will pull up, and big
because there's an
guys,
association.
There's a mime mafia,
and they'll tell you off like this.
And you get beaten up because you the mime mafia.
Yeah.
There's a mime mafia in Paris.
Good.
Magic Man told me that story.
I think
Do you
the thing
remember
is,
Magic Man?
I think I'm all for that because I'm all for any instance in which mimes may get beaten up. Like I think I'm very pro violent beatings of mimes or clowns in general. I'm not
clowns.
specifically mimes, but clowns in general.
Yeah, that's
Just
fine
us.
by me. By me.
You squirt me with that little flower, I'm going to beat you to death.
There was some charming ones at the Boswell Wilkie Circus, the clowns.
I
They're like
remember them.
they're Italian, and I didn't sort of have that fear of them. They were like, hey.
Oh no, I didn't either.
Hey,
Yeah.
so nice. Loved that. But I did have a fear of growing up of the Afrikaans Father Christmas.
I thought you were just going to say of the Afrikaans.
No,
like,
the
like,
father-
I know you grew up in like V-Town.
I know. And then my
then-
father's work always had these Christmas parties, and there was always for the children, and then I'd known Santa Claus from the American movies. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, everybody! And then, but when I had to go get my present from Father Christmas, was, have you been a good boy? You want a present?
There's no more ominous tone during apartheid South Africa than have you been good, because otherwise you might go to John Foster Square.
Oh my word! Have we told the good folks what Dietz graced us with tonight?
Yeah, I
as a
did
topic?
briefly mention that it's revolutions. We had to explain it because of your Che Guevara.
Oh yes, good.
Yeah, beret.
Revolutions. And it was actually given to us by our number one fan, Michelle. I think she mentioned
She's
it.
killing the topics.
Said, do Michelle's topic.
Right, yeah, no, well, she's been crushing it. This is actually, again, another one of those where I was sort of terrified when I heard the name, and then I thought,
What, Michelle?
no. Yeah, Michelle. Terrifying.
Terrifying.
Absolutely awful. No, revolutions, because I thought to myself, it's too narrow. It's too narrow, like I thought it's too many similar events. And so initially, I'll be honest, my research was into death. Like death in revolution. I've watched too much Les Mis, I think. And I think that's what happened, yeah. Anyway. But,
Lovely.
yeah.
Who
but
wants to kick it off? I'm keen. I love
Alright.
this topic.
you,
I love Yes.
Laziest security guard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that's the security guard thing there, D. It's like laziness is part of the get up.
I wish you'd stop saying I look like a security guard. I'm going for revolutionary here, okay? That's.
I mean, a revolutionary in Botch Mall, standing outside the FMB.
Yeah.
With his hands scratching his balls. Anyway.
Yes, so revolution. My first fact is a whole series of interesting little facts, and I'm sure you might. I'll quiz you along the way and then give you the fact. Okay. So one of my favorite 80s songs of all time. This is about revolution, but is "Land Down Under," Men at Work. Do you know some of the words from how the song starts? Traveling in a traveling in a fried out combi on a hippie trail, head full of zombie. Now that I think it means zombie means I think marijuana. So
do you think that's what the Cranberries were talking about as well?
Zombie
in my head, yeah.
But traveling in a fried out combi on a hippie trail, head full of zombies. So the hippie trail is what I'm really talking about. How much do you know about the hippie trail?
I know nothing about the hippie trail. I thought
it's extraordinary.
When you brought up 80s music, and like my thought immediately, as soon as you brought up 80s music and we were talking about revolutions, my thoughts immediately went to New Model Army, which obviously, they sang that song Vagabonds and a bunch of others, and then, they're named after one of the sides in the British Civil War. So I thought you might be talking about that. But anyway, sorry.
The hippie trail is this most extraordinary thing that I know very little about up until this podcast. I know a little more about it. People, before the hippie movement in the United States, it was actually, before that, it was about the hippie trail going, hipster, I don't know where the word came from. I think there was a word, beatnik was the word as well. But they would take a combi, starting from London, and then they'd hop over the channel, I don't know how, but then kind of they'd meet in sort of Paris, Brussels, and they'd travel through Europe on a combi, Volkswagen thing. This is like early 60s, maybe even 50s, and it was as cheaply as you can to see the whole world. This hippie trail went across Europe, through Turkey, Istanbul, and all of that stuff, through the Levant, and all the way to Iran, Iraq, India, and it was a whole trail, and along the trail then became little hostels and stops for people to kind of just and industry around that, and it was like the most cool thing because Europeans, North Americans, and a lot of Australians were like, "Hey man, see you on the hippie trail, man," and yeah, they were sort of alternative lifestyle, but just kind of wanting to see the world for as cheap as possible.
And of course, it was stopped because Australians don't know when to take no for an answer, and Iran is very strongly pro-no.
Yes, so that is sadly it. Also, if you read the trilogy by the oak who wrote, here's my facts going all funny again. The Kite Runner.
Okay.
Did you read that trilogy?
Yes, I did.
The Kite Runner is set in Afghanistan, which is next to Iraq. Before the Afghan revolution, I think the Iranian revolution, which is what my fact is about, because that put a stop to the hippie trail. That's the tragedy of it. Kabul was this cool city, and there was the stop for Westerners to kind of go through and mingle, and the hippies were embracive. They'd embrace the local population. They'd buy stuff. They'd barter with them. Sometimes they'd have no money, so they'd just exchange things. It was such a cool life, man. It was wonderful. But I just think that whole culture, had it not been stopped 40 years ago, could have been blossoming into something beautiful, something so multicultural and diverse. And it was the 1979 revolution of Iran which put a stop to that, which is very, very tragic. Now, all revolutions seem to have this one event, like storming of the Bastille is France's, and later I'm going to be talking about the Boston so-called the massacre in the American Revolution. But the Iranian Revolution had an event called the Cinema Rex Fire, and that's what my fact's about. It was a cinema. They doused it with petrol, closed the doors, and set it alight, and it was in the Iran city of Abadan. It was the movie it was playing at the time, here's my fact, is Lost Tango in Paris. Do Do you know anything about the Iranian Revolution?
I know so little about the Iranian Revolution, except that it occurred in 1979 because that was the year I was born.
Me too.
And I know nothing about the Last Tango in Paris. I mean, I really would have thought it would have been like Deep Throat or something. You really got to like push someone over the edge. It's Last Tango in Paris seems like a strange sort of movie to be the one that flicks the switch. You know?
Do you know what it's about, Last Tango in Paris?
No, I said I know nothing about Last Tango in
I
Paris.
haven't watched it.
Is it filth? Is it smut?
I think so. I haven't watched it, but in my curiosity, I read about it once on Wikipedia. It's got Marlon Brando, and it really is about a very odd, call it an affair in Paris.
Okay.
Really about an odd sexual affair, I'd say. So, yeah, that's my fact.
You are right. A lot of these things are spurred, or at least the PR of them seems to indicate that they're spurred by singular events and singular moments and singular arrests. And, I think it's the Syrian revolution that's sparked by one of the guys going and setting himself on fire outside.
It's a more recent thing.
Yeah, like it's, so certainly like with Iran now and what they're going through, that's been sparked by the death of one girl allegedly. But it's not really sparked by one girl or one event or one. That just happens to be the thing that firstly catalyzes and spreads virally and everybody hears about it. And two, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Absolutely.
So it's a moment where.
Yeah.
But sure. You like to start with a lie. So it's possible that the movie they were showing was, let me think of some other great 1970s, Monty Python. Perhaps it was Star Wars, that in 1979. Who knows? But sure, I'm prepared to believe in general you wouldn't lie about the death of hundreds of people in a cinema fire. Not even you could be that callous, Ryan.
I'm afraid I did start with a lie.
Of course you did.
It wasn't Last Tango in Paris. It was a tragic movie called The Deer, and it was Iranian produced. And The Deer was about two poor guys who knew each other, and then they met up after school, and the one was addicted to drugs, the other one was robbing, was a criminal. And because the circumstances were so tough, and that's the great irony of the movie that was playing when the revolutionaries burnt down the cinema and killed hundreds of people. I think 300 to 400 people. It's hectic by fire. Oh, terrible. But the film was a beautiful depiction of a difficult life, Iranian movie. No revolutionary motive in the movie, but they burnt the cinema down because it represented Western values and did play sort of smutty type movies occasionally. And so, but I think that what's ironic is that movie would have maybe shown that the context, the socio-political, economic context of Iran needed work, needed major help. There'd been a previous takeover in America, put a sort of government in place, but only the top were sort of benefiting, and all the working class was struggling and difficult conditions.
When you talk about all of this, right, like how awful Iran is and everything, my brain is just picturing that movie, The Deer, as if it's like Garfield. It's got these two guys that commit crime and then there's a deer. It's like Garfield, like an actual. Why was it called The Deer? Where is the deer? I want to hear, what did the deer do in this movie? What did he?
I think it's like Sheldon with that play about a street car named Desire.
Oh, right.
He was like, it's a lovely play. Where is the car?
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's like that movie Ted.
Yes.
The guy's like imagining his teddy bear talking to him.
Yeah.
Is it like that? Jojo Rabbit. See. Who knows?
So there we are. We started with the 1979 Iranian revolutions.
Yeah, so I've got a much lighter fact for you. Yeah, because you have dressed like a revolutionary in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
Except one. That is that you lack a magnificent beard. You lack a magnificent beard because beard is like a thing, right? A lot of political thinkers grew significant beards.
When you're thinking, who's got time to shave?
Well, this is interestingly one of my facts because Fidel Castro, he had a beard. Right, he had a beard, and one of the reasons that people sort of said he had a beard was because he's out camped in the jungles for a long time, and there's no shaving equipment, there's no mirrors out there, so all the guys just grew a beard. And then they said also this helped them avoid spies, because anybody who wanted to become a spy in their organization would first have to grow 6 months worth of beard in order to show up and then infiltrate their organization to look like they were an actual revolutionary.
Oh, that's clever.
Well, no. So this is the supposition.
Oh, right.
Right, and then this is my fact. This is my fact. Is that they asked Fidel Castro about it, and they said, why do you have a beard? And he said, no, because he worked out that it takes about 15 minutes a day to shave a beard. And so over the course of a year, that's 5,500 minutes, which if a working day is 8 hours, is about 10 or 11 working days. So he figured if he just doesn't shave, he gets 10 or 11 extra working days a year in which to do all the things he really wants to do rather than shave. And that's why Fidel Castro grew that iconic beard. So
and
that's
your
my
fact.
That's my fact, yeah.
Man, that is fascinating. It's just so awesome. I don't know much about Fidel as much as I do. I know a little bit more about Che. I got a bit of a Che fact coming up later. And I do want to watch the movie with Benicio del Toro. But Fidel Castro, it sounds like that sort of type of weird answer that he might give. I do know Che was even more a more firm believer in the socialist principles than even Fidel. But that discipline, that militant discipline of don't shave because it's a waste of time when you could fight the cause. It sounds actually true. It sounds true, and I'm going to say that it's true. I know you're giggling because you're about to reveal a big surprise, but I'm going to say no. Fidel said, "Don't shave; it wastes time."
So he did. He said it. Yeah, he said it. But interestingly, so I mean, obviously, he kind of grew it at first in the jungle, but then his excuse for not shaving it off once he'd taken charge and he was everything else was that he'd worked out it saves him this much time and therefore he's benefiting. He can do all of these other things that he'd rather be doing. But you know that the beard became so iconic. You know, there's very few sort of leaders with as iconic a beard as Che Guevara. You might not even know what his face looks like without that beard, but you see a silhouette of him, and that beard is a kind of a part of it. And the beard became so iconic that allegedly the CIA developed a plan to put depilatory poison in his shoes so that his feet would soak it up and he would lose all his hair and it would fall out, and that he would become therefore less powerful and less iconic as a leader. So they didn't manage to do it in the end. But
what sort of weird labs have they got in Langley?
Oh man, okay, all right. Now we're opening up a thing, right? So Fabian Escalante, who was the head of security for Cuba for a very long time, home security. Mm-hmm. He said that the CIA in America tried to assassinate Fidel Castro on 634 different occasions.
Good.
And it might not be as many as that, obviously. I mean, Fabian Escalante, as the former head of security for Fidel Castro, has got a reason to lie. But there's no doubt that, stuff that's emerged from their files shows numerous ways that they did try to assassinate him. They tried a pen with a hypodermic needle that could inject poison into him. They tried. He loved scuba diving. This is the dumbest one. He loved scuba diving, and they tried an explosive shell. Like a very pretty shell that they would put in his area where he was going to go scuba diving, and then he'd come and he'd grab it and it would blow him up. So they tried all sorts of stuff. They put poison on the inside of his wetsuit. They did all sorts of things to try and kill him. But yeah, they never succeeded, obviously. So Fabian Escalante may be a little bit of a tall tale teller, but he must have been pretty good at his job.
I mean, so the MI5 thing of, Bond, try this thing.
That's
Two
right.
trips of the pen. So they all actually sit and think about that stuff.
Yeah.
My word.
Fidel Castro is fascinating, though. He's so his main military tactic was to get his snipers to shoot the guy whoever was at the head of the government forces, whoever was walking in front. He'd just get his snipers to shoot that guy, like the whole time. It would just be shoot that guy. And what this resulted in is that nobody wanted to walk at the front. So therefore people would refuse to march because no one wanted to walk at the front of the thing. So he would stop an entire battalion simply through the fear that the dude walking at the front of the battalion was going to get shot. So everybody would just refuse. He's really like quite a... if you like weird facts, Fidel Castro is a sweet one. Yeah.
The underdog's got to think out of the box, so that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Well, that's a great fact, and let's wind back the clock. We started in the 20th century. We started with Cuba.
1979. Yeah.
Cuba was 50s.
Yeah.
We're gonna wind back the clock, and we can sing "Oh Say Can You See" by the dawn's early light. The American Revolution.
You didn't give me a chance to say Mexican Revolution.
So I think the incident which really became the campaigning incident for the American Revolution to garner amongst the colonies anti-British sentiment was this thing called the Boston Massacre. And I'm just going to start with a fact, and you can consider it. The Boston Massacre. In the Boston Massacre, 105 people were massacred. That is my fact.
I mean, Boston. I don't even know the Boston Massacre myself. I think
American
remember
kids
the Boston
know American history.
Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, Boston Tea Party. American kids know American history, and then kids from other parts of the world know the rest of the world history.
I think we know American history simply because Americans think everyone needs to know their history. They just put that stuff. The Liberty Bell. Who cares about the Liberty Bell? It's just a giant cracked bell. No one gives a damn. I don't know what it's about. It's just like the rest of Philadelphia, as far as I'm concerned, broken and underused and useless.
A lot of brotherly love there for Philadelphia from you, Warren.
Yeah.
Look what I did there. Brotherly love, Philadelphia.
Nice. Let's see. 105 people massacred in the Boston Massacre. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Tell me a little bit about the Boston Massacre.
Sure.
Let me see if I believe.
The background is it started with a thing called the stamp tax. I don't know what that meant, but any documents stamped in the colonies had to be then taxed. And so there was a bit of a recession in England, and so they're wanting a bit more money, and they're trying to tax the colonists. And they were like, no, this is crap.
Well, it's King George. I think he wanted to be at war with the French, like indirectly. I think the Americas became a battleground for him versus the French.
And so to enforce, and then there was a bit of we don't want to sign this tax. And then it's like, okay, fine, we'll change the rule. But then the rule came back like 5 years later. Suddenly this act emerged again. And there was tension rising. So the British sent a few sort of military ships just to kind of, and the entire presence of the military ship they didn't like. And at some point the little regiment came aboard. Yes, aboard. And a large crowd gathered and started hurling things at them, even snowballs.
Sounds traumatic.
They opened fire, and this was in Boston.
Is this the British opened fire?
British opened fire, yeah.
I mean, that
there's a big, it's not called an engraving, an impression. Maybe it is called an engraving. It was a thing that was made of the Boston Massacre. Actually, by a name Paul Revere. We've had his name on the cigarette. But he was also the British are coming, the famous dude who rode the horse. It was like the Dick King of America. Yeah. The British are coming. But he was a engraver, and he made an engraving of the Boston Massacre, and it circulated in all the newspapers. But this picture that he had made with a few other people, printed, whatever the word is, he was a silversmith. This picture, it was like the pamphlet to go. It just turned sentiment against the British, and a short while later was the declaration of war.
I think if you were to look at the history books for phrases that are most commonly used, the British opened fire would be right near the top. I think that's their like. People were protesting. People were unhappy. People were wanting to get their passports stamped, and the British opened fire. That's British history right there.
I've still got to watch the movie Zulu with Michael Caine, and Martin Davies does a lovely impression sometimes in his comedy of Michael Caine during, I don't know what the impression is, oh dear, there's or something, but it's very funny. But it's like, when the British are opening fire, it's like, I think in Zulu, and also in the TV show Shaka Zulu when I was small, it's like, load gun, ooh, that's a guy dead. So you didn't have a lot of time to shoot, and then load, and then, they're charging at me with an assegai. Oh, this is going badly. Come on, chaps, keep it. We're all, oh dear. They needed a faster turnaround time with it.
I was just, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I was thinking, didn't they have faster turnaround time guns? I think they were just purposefully equipping the guys who were sent to South Africa with rubbish. Because I'm fairly certain that by the time of the Crimean War, you had rifles that could be, quicker than you or I.
What are you doing? Nothing, just loading my rifles over.
Yeah, because there was, I know, during the unification, kind of when Prussia went to war against all the other German states, there was already the needle gun was already a thing, and so they were already at the stage there where there were better equipment. Why were these guys coming out here in the early 1900s and still using flintlock?
As far as I recall, that little tour I went on, the Battle of Blouberg, if I'm correct, I recall the chap saying that they could load their little bullet things 3 times in a minute.
Oh yeah, but that's why they did the ranks. Seconds. Yeah, that's why they did the ranks. So they did the front rank, shoot, kneel, rank behind, shoot, and while you're kneeling, second rank is shooting, I'm
doing lots of
furiously pumping my gun. Yeah. So your fact was...
It's like they're loading it with gunpowder. They're not cleaning it with a bottle brush. It's so dirty. It's like
what are you doing down there, Simpkins? I'm loading my rifles, pumping my gun, priming for a shot. Shot to the face. Good.
It's so good this episode.
All right, 105 people. I don't think they killed nearly that many. I think they killed 3 or something. I think they killed... Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's been overstated by the history books and the Americans.
So your answer?
Yeah.
Oh, you're spot on, and you spot on clever. I remind the lovely listener and audience member, I said 105 were massacred at the Boston Massacre. 5 were. You said about 3. Absolutely right. And even Wikipedia says massacre in
really?
comments. And what that Paul Revere engraving did, there was 2 inflammatory things. The one thing, it definitely gave the Captain Preston giving the order to fire, and he never did such thing. It was a bit like, I don't want to be controversial, but it was a bit like the Sharpeville incident where someone tripped and fell, and one guy thought they were attacking, and he shot, and then they all opened fire, and apparently that's one version. So similarly,
if you were head up before a military tribunal, and people were like, "Listen, you just shot a bunch of the locals. Explain yourself." You'd be like, "It wasn't me, sir. It's ill discipline in the ranks, sir." No. People say I gave the order to fire, sir, but I was in fact, I wasn't even there. I was having a poo, sir. They opened fire all by themselves.
So the engraving's got Captain Preston giving the order to fire,
right.
And then there's a building. It's just a customs office, and he's renamed it the Butcher's Hall, and there's a smoke coming out of the window, suggesting they were firing from the customs office, and very inflammatory. But this went around the colonies, and
so basically, you're saying fake news is as American as America. Like it's an original American,
Revere, man.
Yeah. That fake news is that's what's built that country. It's a country built on fake news.
And I wonder where that tobacco came from. Paul Revere, man. It's a great American name. Probably not even American. Probably was Irish or something. But Paul Revere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely, the massacre of Boston was 5 people. God rest their
I
souls.
mean, it's still a bit of a massacre, isn't it?
Sure, 5 out of about 400.
But it's still a bit of a massacre. I mean, I think as soon as you kill more than, say, 1 or 2 folk, it's a little bit of a massacre. It's a light massacring.
Yeah.
It's a light massacre. I mean, at what level do we actually say a thing is a massacre?
Yeah.
At what point do we go, oh yeah, he only killed 9. 10's a massacre.
Yeah.
I think 5 is enough for a massacre.
Yeah. It's like Pluto's not a planet, and so 6.
Maybe it depends on the size of the population. Like if you walk into an Inuit village and you execute one family, it's probably 1/4 of the population. That's a massacre. Like, there's no doubt about it. But now, yeah, you walk into kill your next door neighbors.
Yeah.
You know, not a massacre.
No, unless you killed all of them.
I don't know if somebody could let us know. I want to know the
definition.
The definition of a
Oxford.
massacre. Yeah, at what point does it cross from being some light murdering? Thank you. Some light murdering into a massacre.
Some light murdering.
Yeah, some casual homicide. some like a Sunday genocide.
Gentle genocide versus hardcore massacre.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stick with the American Revolution just because it's convenient. But I'm not gonna do it in the way that you think, because I want to talk about the musical Hamilton. Have you seen it?
No.
So Hamilton's he's one of the lesser known founding forefathers, Alexander Hamilton, and the musical Hamilton is about him and his life, and it's magnificent. It's really very, very, very good.
It's a recent musical.
Yes, it's very, very recent.
Okay. Original music.
Yeah, original music, and that's actually
on the stage or in the film.
On a stage. No, I mean it's right.
I
think this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel for me a little bit, because my fact is it's about this particular thing, and it's obvious you haven't even heard of it. But what it is it uses rap and hip hop to tell the founding forefathers' story, and it's very, very good, and it's historically accurate and 99% historically accurate, and it's very well researched, and it's very well put together, and it's beautifully staged, and it echoes a little bit of Les Mis, because obviously Les Mis is the French Revolution, and Hamilton is the American Revolution, and the kind of lead up to it, and the aftermath. But it's very dense. I'd say it's like 2.5 hours long. But it's very dense. It feels really heavy. There's a lot of information in it. There's a lot of, there's very little talking. They musical and rapping and hip hop the entire time. And and in fact, my fact about it, and this is, as I say, going to be a little bit like shooting fish in a barrel, is that the musical Hamilton is in fact the wordiest musical ever written.
Oh, lovely little interesting fact. What odd data you've got there. Wow.
Yeah.
Wordiest, from what you're saying, especially with the hip hop thing and rap, and sometimes the challenge of like Eminem to the most words in a song ever, like fastest rapping ever. That's cool.
But you think about some of the classic musical, Pirates of Penzance. I am the very model of a modern major general. There's quite a lot of words in some of the
colours mentioned in the one song. I know
Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yeah.
All those colours,
faded into darkness, and I was left alone. So there you are. That's
lovely. Musicals like Evita. That's sort of longish and drawn outish and doesn't seem to be very wordy. And that's one thing I could compare it to. But I'd say the answer is yes. It is the wordiest musical of all time. Hamilton is one I have not seen, full of hip hop and rap, about a founding father that we know, the lesser known founding father.
It's very good. It's on Netflix. So if you get an opportunity to see it, it's on Netflix. But it is in fact the wordiest musical ever written.
Good fact.
Like Oklahoma, 59 words per minute. Pirates of Penzance, 58 words per minute. Phantom of the Opera, 77 words per minute.
Words per minute.
Yeah. But because it's so fast, right? So it's 2.5 hours. And Hamilton's 144 words per minute.
Oh, it crushed it.
Yeah. So
144
words per minute. And because it's so fast, like if you were to do it at normal speed of the average Broadway show, it would take about 5 hours to finish.
Sure.
So they managed to fit in, like twice as many words, twice as much information. So when you watch it, it's pretty dense.
I've got a question about it. It must be quite a draining experience to watch all those words. I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
Well then, okay. Well, with so many words per minute, it must be like quite a draining experience to like watch it. You must feel tired afterwards.
I watched it in 2 sessions. So I'd imagine, if you go live, there is an interval. You know, and I think if you watch it on TV, you don't watch it with an interval. We don't watch things with intervals anymore. I think the last movie I remember that used to have an interval was Titanic. Do you remember Titanic had an interval? Yeah.
Back to the Future did as well.
Did it?
Yeah.
I feel like Back to the Future was pushing their luck a little bit. Like they didn't 1 hour 25 or whatever it was.
An interval, yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, and then intermission, and then the curtain would come down over the screen like it was a theater play. And now I feel fucking old. Like really, really old.
Yeah. Intermission. Mark's Park. Well, Back to the Future, that was controversial when that second one ended. Because it was ended on a cliffhanger. It's like, what? You can't end a movie like this. Coming soon, Back to the Future 3. And they showed you a little crazy.
It wasn't really a cliffhanger, though. I mean, it was more a throw forward. It was what Marvel movies do now. You know, where they have that last scene at the end of the credits. And they kind of show you something that's coming from a movie in the future. It was more that than an actual cliffhanger.
Yes. It wasn't a nice resolved ending, though. I think there was a bit of an outcry about that, wasn't there?
No, I mean, there may have been an outcry because people were snowflakes back then.
Western one, eh?
That's right, yeah. People were snowflakes back then. No, they'd resolved the future thing because it was all about how Biff Tannen got the almanac. And then he made himself really rich. So in the future, now he's broken the future because in the future now he's a billionaire and he rules the world. But he's Biff Tannen, who's a bit of an asshole. So then why are we talking about Back to the Future during the Revolution?
Okay, so tiring.
Oh, yeah, so we're talking about Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton. Anyway, it can be a bit tiring, but it is very, very good. And you learn a thing or two about Alexander Hamilton.
That's fantastic. This next fact's going to blow your mind.
Oh, you just, nice segue there, Ryan. Very professional. I'm just going to, I'm not even going to try and ease us into it. I'm just going to, revolutionary, Ryan. Revolutionary.
Yo, that's what we do. We don't mess around. We go straight for the Arc de Triomphe. No, the best. We'll go with anything.
You're just breaking the classic podcast formula of two guys talking and slowly segueing between their topics. And you're just going, no, I'm not going to segue anymore. I'm going to change this whole game up. Screw you, Joe Rogan. I know better than you.
Speaking of Hamilton, my next fact is about the New Zealand Revolution, which took place in Hamilton. Joking. There's not yet been a New Zealand Revolution.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What year is it? What are we? 2022? It's soon though. It is soon.
It's coming.
It's coming.
You watch you.
Who would have thought those anti-vaxxers, eh? Nobody saw that coming.
The pro-Trump New Zealanders. My goodness me.
Yeah, I mean, nobody saw the disappointment in the cricket being that much of a catalyst. But then the loss of the All Blacks at the Rugby World Cup.
That would cause a...
I mean, that's why they called it the Dunedin Massacre. I thought that was when South Africa lost 50-0, but no! It was the start of the New Zealand Revolution.
I love that stuff. We'll get to the fact soon. But Dunedin was always called the House of Pain.
That's right.
Yeah. And then...
Jump around.
And in... So much beer so far. And in Brisbane, in Australia, it was sponsored by the railway company. And they called it House of Train.
I mean, there are very few examples of a stadium being sold out more hard than that. But there is still one better, and that is the old Cape Town T20 franchise, which is the Cape Town Mumbai Indians.
Oh my goodness me!
Yeah,
this is odd, eh?
Yeah, it's a very strange name.
The Cape Town Mumbai Indians.
Like the Mumbai Indians weren't already the worst name in the IPL. Now that's already we're the Johannesburg South Africans.
Oh
laziest name for a team.
Canadians all over again.
That's
Mumbai
right.
and Cape Town Mumbai Indians. They must think we are so silly. Good grief.
Although, to be fair, they looked at Cape Town and they went, yep, this is a city ripe for it because they've got Cape Town City. Yeah.
You said that's your worst thing ever.
Yeah,
worst
Cape Town City. Cape Town, it enrages me. It enrages me. Write to them. Auckland Park, private bag. So
X45. Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah.
People used to write, eh? Gee whiz.
Yeah, please give me Bodine Hametna's telephone number is mainly what they were writing to KTV.
Oh,
Anyway.
the blonde one.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's not. What I thought at 14 needs to be buried. The things I thought and did at 14 were disgusting, and I distanced myself from all of
And
them.
it was all during KTV.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, where were you going?
So I was going to go. We were talking
About
Hamilton.
the New Zealand.
So we're going to
the New
fast
Zealand
forward
Revolution.
back to the Cuban Revolution
Oh,
and just talk about the chap, Shay. Fascinating chap. Fascinating. I know.
Cuban Revolution.
I know a thing or two about him. I'll tell you about him. But first, let's talk about my facts. Che Guevara played fly half.
He does. I mean, he certainly had the build for it. Certainly had the build for it. He wasn't a prop. He wasn't a prop.
But why would he play rugby?
They all play
Fly
rugby in
half.
South America. They do. Isn't Chile going to the next World Cup?
Sure.
I think they are. And Argentina, obviously. So yeah, there's a history of rugby down there. Why not? Maybe he went to school in England. I don't know. But I'm prepared to say yes, he has the body of a fly half. Fact.
Well, actually, you're spot on right. He did. I thought it would befuzzle you. But do you know where he's from? Do you know where he was born?
No.
Argentina.
Ah, there
He's
you are.
Argentinian. And his lineage is on his, I forget which parent's side, one of them,
Yeah.
is Irish.
Bit of a meddler though, isn't he? Old Che Guevara.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you or I decided to put on a beret and go and cause shit in Angola and Namibia and Mozambique, cause a bunch of revolutions, overthrow people, get places named after myself, and then have a cute movie of where I ride around South America on a motorbike.
Is that with Benicio?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you see, the thing is, he's not just riding around looking at the difficult circumstances of South American populations. He, I think, the cauldron of his conscience, isn't that lovely, was complimenting myself again.
Yeah.
The cauldron of his conscience was.
I swear, it just takes 2 beers before you start doing that. You must see him after 9. He's just lying on the floor in his own vomit and talking about how great he is.
He came from clever parents who were quite wealthy and not didn't have a lot of time for sort of religion, but it was more sort of socialist and those kind of philosophers and stuff. And this was the cauldron of him. And then he rode around seeing the socio-economic squalor and inequality, and that fueled his thing for socialism. And he was a true believer, man, in the socialism. And of course, being Argentinian, great scholar at school, played rugby at school, played fly half.
I think the thing is, if you were Argentinian doctor in like the 1940s and 50s, there were suddenly a lot of doctors, German doctors, that showed up in your country and took all the jobs. So it's possible that he needed some socialism. He wanted to overthrow. Where are all these Germans coming from? They do have interesting books full of experiments, don't they?
Oh, man. And, of course, the recent FIFA Uncovered documentary on Netflix, which is ironic that it is...
We aren't sponsored by Netflix. I think people need to know that.
Released. No.
We just watch a lot.
Mention it. We reference it a lot as academic material. It was like it's running the same time as the Qatar World Cup, which is ironic because, you know...
I think they did it on purpose.
You're watching the footy and you're going, oh, this is wonderful footy, but oh my... And as a footy lover, I'm certainly complicit in all the.
Would Morocco winning it make up for the 45,000 people who died? Wow. That's a good question, isn't it? It wouldn't, but it certainly would make it better.
But I brought up the FIFA one because the FIFA scandal starts with the real corruption in '78 when Argentina hosted the World Cup. But '78, it had recently been overthrown by a coup d'etat and hectic military authoritarianism and abuse of power and locking up and torturing dissidents. Is that the word? In Argentina, sort of like they call it 15 years after Shay, you know. So that whole region was is quite a political, military mess. Shame. Yeah, I love Diego. He died. He was a military.
Forlan or Madonna?
Madonna. Maradona. So, yeah, man, I just find, but Shay's whole, you know, the conviction of, because he got disappointed in Fidel, who said was softening to the Soviets and was pandering to them, and had lost the kind of his first love of socialism, and so then he got bored with Cuba and went around trying to overthrow all sorts of other governments, where he failed even in the Congo in Africa, and then was ultimately caught in Bolivia.
So you know, there's a lot of stories where the guys who sort of spark these things or become the figureheads of these revolutions, and who do maintain their fervor, do fall out with the people that they have their revolutions with. You know, one of the people that I think of specifically from that perspective is Robespierre. You know, very famously, he was known as the Incorruptible, because he you know, helped with the overthrow of the lordly nobility in France, and then he was the head of the terror and the guillotining and all of that stuff. But the whole time he spoke about. Apparently, he was very well respected for his debates and his ability to carry persuasively.
He French?
Yeah. So he was, he was very Maximilian Robespierre. Yeah, he was very good at carrying debate and at convincing people to do things, and he remained absolutely steadfastly, you know, down the narrow path of what the revolution had been about. You know, kind of making sure that anybody who was standing in the way of the poor would be put to death. You know, he was. I mean, this was his thing, but he was also at the same time not a very well liked person. You know, he didn't have a sense of humor, and apparently he was altogether too serious, and people didn't really like him as an individual. They would say, he's really very clever, and his debates are perfect. Like he'll debate you into a corner and absolutely crush you, but just not a nice man, not a fun person. And ultimately, I mean, we know what happened to him. His own fellow revolutionaries eventually turned on him, and they had him executed under the guillotine.
Oh my word!
I mean, look. By the time he was guillotined, bringing an end to the terror, some 18,000 people had been guillotined.
Wow!
I mean, that's the official number, right? So 18,000 people had been guillotined. They say another 10,000 people had died in prison awaiting trial. Another 25,000 people had been executed kind of ad hoc around the country.
Sure.
So you took like this massive number of people that had been executed, and largely, you know, on his sort of say-so, because he kept introducing new measures to make it more and more easy for people to have their neighbor, you know, kind of brought before the guillotine. There was a court that he specifically set up where it was any French citizen can arrest someone and have them charged in front of this particular court, and that court could only rule two things: either freedom or death.
Wow!
So you know, like, and so he was like a rabid guy, and then ultimately his people turn on him. He gets sick for a month. He ends up staying at home, and this allows the parliament to start going, you know what, actually, bit of a cock, that guy.
Yeah.
Like, let's be serious. Bit of a knob.
Yeah. Power dynamics are fascinating. I mean, it makes me think of Shaka Zulu as well, you know. He you know, united the Zulu tribes under one thing.
I mean, he's more
like
rather kind of said, less than revolutionary. He's more like sort of tyrannical, more Gaddafi than...
Yeah, bit of a William Wallace of the Zulus.
I mean, if William Wallace was fighting against smaller tribes, you know, like, this is one of the things that people don't talk about Shaka. He united a great number of separate tribes because he was a great leader, and you know, he wasn't like a revolutionary or trying to overthrow a tyrannical government, or, you know, he was very much the tyrannical government. But yeah, so I want to just jump back to Robespierre. So, because actually I've got a fact about him. So when they guillotined him, what happened is the parliament eventually they said, all right, no, enough of this guy, and they put out arrest warrants for him and a couple of his mates, and they said, listen, enough's enough. And Robespierre heard about this, and he and his mates fled, and they went to a place called the Hotel de Ville, and they were in the Hotel de Ville, and the parliamentary forces heard about where they were and kind of showed up at the Hotel de Ville, and they raided it. Nobody's really 100% certain what happened in the Hotel de Ville, but Robespierre and his mates were all arrested, and they were quickly kind of ushered into a room, and they were very quickly condemned to death. And then the next day, they were taken out to be executed.
Wow!
And my fact is that Robespierre's final words were, "So falls a revolution."
So falls a revolution.
Yeah.
Yo. So falls a revolution. What did he mean? His dying words. It's like that guy. Rosebud. What? I have to sit and wait 2 hours.
I know what Rosebud is. His sled. Spoilers.
Don't. We're going to put in a bit of a chicky.
Yeah, spoilers.
When he said that.
No, we're not. We're not.
So falls a revolution. Did he mean the revolution's over, or was he a
Yeah,
revolution?
I think that's. I think
wonderful.
Anyway, that's my fact is that those were his final words.
Yeah, I have no reason to doubt that, and I do think there's strange ambiguity, because like when you know you're gonna die, I think grammar sometimes slips, and he meant to say.
I mean, maybe it was in French.
Revolutionary.
Maybe "so falls a revolution" makes more sense in French. Maybe it's the translating it, because he definitely didn't say it in English, right?
So falls a revolutionary. Duh. Shame.
Yeah.
It's a very unrevolutionary thing to keep removing a beret when you
I know,
remember
particularly
the dead.
since what you've done with the pom-pom is you slowly moved it around, and now it's right on the front in the middle.
Le pom-pom.
Level.
Yes, I think Robespierre said, "So falls a revolution." Indeed. And he was just jittering because he was nervous that he was going to die. He meant to say, "Thus falls a revolutionary." That would have been good. Copywriting, it matters.
It does matter. It does matter.
Change the world.
Unfortunately, it's all nonsense. Maximilien Robespierre, we don't know what his final words are, because while he was in the Hotel de Ville,
because they're going, can we release it? No, not yet.
But then his last words would be, "No, not yet." No, just wait a few years.
His final words were, "No, not yet."
Yeah, if we could just wait just a couple of years, I'll be back tomorrow.
So we don't know what his bloody
we don't know what his final, because while he was in the Hotel de Ville, these government forces raided it at 2:30 in the morning, and there was shooting and there was argument and everything else, and Robespierre was ultimately found on the floor with his lower jaw shot off.
Oh!
So a portion of his lower jaw shot off, and kind of in a catatonic sort of state. And the story is that he may have tried to commit suicide. There's also a story that perhaps one of the military guards shot him. It's also possible that they shot him to remove his jaw, being a famous orator. They were afraid that maybe he would say something on the guillotine. But they arrest everybody and they take them off to a thing, and it becomes quite obvious to them. They think he's dead at first, but it becomes quite obvious to them that he's breathing and he's listening and he's in a great amount of pain. And they get a doctor to come and to pull the shattered teeth out and to fill his cheek with wadding, and then to tie a bandage around his face, just trying to kind of hold him together for his eventual execution. And the whole time, other people from the parliament are coming in and they're telling him exactly what they think of him. Look at you, Robespierre, you piece of shit, And he's lying there, kind of ragged, breathing his last. And they're convinced that he will have known what these guys were saying to him. And then they get him onto the guillotine there, and the executioner rips the bandage off, and he screams in kind of primal agony. And they chop his head off, and so we don't actually know what his last.
What?
And we don't know whether the executioner. Yeah, we don't know whether the executioner ripped the bandage off because he wanted to hurt him. Wanted to embarrass him. Wanted to show the crowd this hideous monster that he'd become. Like the French are quite big on the symbolism of the whole thing. He couldn't speak at the end, and he was a disfigured monster and revealing his real self as this hideous beast. And then was the executioner doing that, showing the crowd just who he'd become, removing the mystery from him, or was the executioner aware that perhaps the bandages might stop the guillotine and make the execution worse? Was he trying to? So we don't really know. We don't really know the history of it, but we definitely do not know what Robespierre's last words were.
Oh, shame that because the poor bugger had no jaw.
Yeah.
Oh, that is macabre.
It is, isn't it? It is. There you are.
Wow. And what I loved about, like, there were some historians going, they just stormed the Bastille, and then it was the butcher. The butcher got his knife and got a noble guy and chopped his head off, and that's when it turned macabre. That's when the blood's... And it's almost like this bloodlust did kick in. Oh, it's horrible.
Well, as I say, it was driven by Robespierre, because after that, the terror it sort of stops after the death of him. Because, a lot of the parliamentarians were going along with the terror because they were under his sway, and some of them didn't want it at all. They didn't like the fact that it was getting out of control. Like 18,000 people is a lot of people to go under a guillotine. That's a lot of people. 18,000.
The Madame was working hard.
So one of the interesting things is they just before that period, they adjusted the guillotine and they changed the shape of the blade. And the rumor is it was Louis XVI himself who said that if it was a triangular shaped blade, you know how it's got that angle, it might execute quicker. And one of the first people to ever be executed under a triangular blade was, in fact, Louis XVI. The number of times that stuff happens, never invent an implement of death, because there's a good chance, historically speaking, that you're going to be the one that you're going to be a recipient thereof. Yeah. That's what they say about the brazen bull. I don't know if you've ever heard of the brazen bull.
Oh, if you terrible thing.
Yeah, if you want to go down a really dark period of history, it's a
Chinese,
brass bull. No, I think it's Persian or Middle. Yeah, but it's a brass bull that's hollow on the inside, and they put a person inside it, and then they light the fire under the belly. And then the person, obviously, the brass bull gets hot, so you can't put your hands anywhere, and then it starts getting so hot that it sears the flesh off of the palms of your hands and your knees, and etc., and you cook eventually alive. And the rumor is, so horrified was the king with the invention of this creation, the brazen bull, that he put the inventor inside of it as its first victim. Yeah. So
my!
That's the historical story. Yeah.
Dante's Inferno would call that contrapasso. You do it now, it happens to you.
Yeah. I mean, history is littered with examples like that. So don't invent ways to kill people. Sure. It's not cool, bro. It's not cool.
Man, let's go on that hippie trail, man.
Yeah. Chill out, bro. Yeah. This brazen bull thing you're building in your garage, bro. It's not cool. It's not cool.
Cool. Talking of brazen bulls and the streets flowing with blood, I'm going to talk to you now about the 1977 coup d'etat of the Seychelles.
Okay, let's do that.
When it was about 200 people went to two places. One was the one police station, said it's coup d'etat. They said, okay, no shots were fired. The other police station, shots were fired.
Shots fired.
And a cop died, so did an insurgent. 2 deaths, man. And then the government changed hands.
I mean, that's the way to do it, right? Once people are shooting at each other, you have to be like, hey, bro, not cool, guys. You want me out?
Coup d'etat. Okay. Yeah. What's that? Coup d'etat. It's like, can I help you? Yes. You want a passport? Sure. You'd like an ID, driver's license. You coup d'etat? Coup d'etat? Yes, let's coup d'etat.
Fine, I'm off to the beach. Cheers, Oaks. Cheers, Oaks. Yeah.
Change
cheers,
your
Oaks.
picture. Change your picture.
Cheers, Oaks. I'm off to the beach. Here you are. Have my seat. I'm out. I'm done.
I'm out, bro.
Yeah.
And my fact around the 1977 Seychelles coup d'etat was France Albert René. He led the coup d'etat, dressed in full military regalia. And why this is important, because le beret, because after Che Guevara, he was the first revolutionary to also don the beret. That's my fact.
I see. So
it a
he kind of made it
revolutionary
cool. He made it
So
cool.
after show, he was, I must get the beret. And
Because it's a bit of a silly hat. Let's be honest. It's not protecting you from the sun. It's not. You know, what is it really doing? The beret.
This feels great.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
And keep your hair out of your eyes, maybe.
Is your hair in your eyes when you're trying to storm the Bastille? Try the beret.
Le beret. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other hats you could wear that were way more functional. You know.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
like a
key-
helmet. Someone's gonna be shooting at you. You know, maybe wear a
Yeah,
helmet.
I'd take a bullet against this.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
particularly good.
Yeah, France. I mean, I know you've read a lot of books, watched a lot of movies, and all that stuff. Where would you ever have come across this fact? No,
No, it's
I
true.
was looking at our beloved continent and seeing
Yeah.
revolutions in our beloved continent. And like, yeah, we've had a lot. Africa, lots. Do you care to hazard a guess at which countries had the most? So in the no, actually, I can ask that as a stat. Which African countries had the most?
Sudan.
Close. Actually, not close in geography, but not really close in number.
Oh, okay. I mean, no, I would have gone with Sudan.
No,
I
it's
would've-
actually little Burkina Faso, a little bit to the
Okay.
west. They had like between the, I think in the 80s, between the 80s and 81 and 95, they had 8. So it's like they don't really have elections anymore in Burkina Faso. It's like, we're going to have election in 3 years' time. Yay.
Oh.
No, wait, next year. Oh, coup d'etat. Okay.
I'm-
We're going to
I'm
have
up-
elections in 3 years' time. Coup d'etat. Oh, shit. So that's how they change.
So actually, the way that
Governments.
you become president is by rising through the ranks of the military. Really, like that's. I mean, that's all right as long as it's a system of government. Who's to say that they're wrong?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I just want to know.
Et tu, brute?
It's just the president who takes over. He takes over and then he's like, you know what? I actually don't need you guys anymore. Let's appoint a new head of the military. You. I'm just gonna go and be president now. It's fine. And then that guy's like, hey, wait, I'll be president instead. And then
the
as soon
guns
as
under control.
yeah, and then as soon as he becomes president, he goes, you know what? Actually, you guys are fine. You can go and do whatever you want. I'm gonna be president over here. They all make the exact same mistake. Why don't they retain ruthless control of their military? Just one of them. That's all they need to do. Stupid.
So, Francois Baronet, he donned the beret in full military regalia.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It's not true.
It's not true.
No, he was appointed he was the prime minister. Was appointed as the president, and I love this. This is what really I just found this was wonderful. Is that he claimed to not know about the revolution. I just love that. It's like, you're out, you're in. Me? Were you behind all this? No. Oh, no, I know nothing about this. I'll be the president then. Until 2004. From 1977 until 2004. Flippin' Francois Baronet was president of the Seychelles, but he didn't know about the coup d'etat. I didn't know the thing. I don't know what's going on. But sure, I'll be it. And I think I don't know what the reason was, but I think it was a British colony, and then they appointed a little president thing, and then it was like, no, fuck the British, get out, and coup d'état, and now we've got our own people, all 18 of them. They're our own, and those 18 must go back to Britain, and that was the coup d'état.
Right. Well, there you go. I mean, maybe he didn't know anything.
Doesn't always have to flow with blood and brazen bulls and jaws being blown off and Madame Guillotine with the triangle killing the
Hey,
king.
listen. You talk to those uncivilized Europeans if you're unhappy with it. I'm quite happy to talk about very civilized African revolutions if you like, but I'll be honest with you, they don't all go that way. Some of them are slightly more brutal.
Yes.
All right, here's a revolutionary fact. We're gonna deal with the revolution. This is our final facts before multiple choice, is it not? Yeah.
Yes.
Here's my revolutionary fact. You may have heard of a little thing called the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, you silly man.
Ah, yes.
No shots fired here.
Yeah,
Maybe. Oh.
Listen, you want this to be bloodless. I'll tell you a fact. You know, from the 1790s to the early 1800s in England, this is not my fact, but this is just a bonus fact, if you will.
Yay.
From the 1790s to the early 1800s, Britain was building all these canals as systems of transport around Britain, and in fact, the media was incensed with government spending on canals, and they called it canal mania. They really lived a different life back then, didn't they? I mean,
That's a panic about
oh,
canals.
just force digging. This is crazy. Anyway, no, my fact was that during the Industrial Revolution, it was a bit of a rough time. During the Industrial Revolution, most people would work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, with no holidays or days off.
I absolutely, off the bat, inclined to agree that that's a fact. And it was actually, I sometimes attend the Methodist Church in Green Market Square, and quite a learned reverend there, and he was trying to bring us to the awareness that political campaigning is very much part of necessary reform of society, and that if you think you're being all a good citizen, but you think, oh, political campaigning, that's for silly people.
Right.
No, reforming society, you must get politically active, because at some point, some chap said, hey, how about this 8 hours a day? 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for family. And that was a campaign, and eventually it became the norm.
Yeah, so now obviously the revolution in that regard is for 4-day working week, and the reports coming back from around the world, New Zealand, Finland, these sorts of places, where they're saying that it works.
Wow.
Companies are recording record profits. People are more enthusiastic, they're happier, and they're getting better results. So it looks like South Africa's about to start trialing a 4-day week amongst some companies in the near future. So it's pretty exciting.
Yes.
But yeah, so my fact, people used to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, no days off.
I say yes, you're right, and it's tragic.
I mean, it's a lie.
No.
Because people used to work more like 15 and sometimes 16 hours a day.
Oh,
So there you are, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that is horrible.
And you know that they used to be paid a pittance, and then women and children would work as well, but they'd be paid half a pittance because they were paid half of what a man was paid.
Ooh.
And in fact, child labor was so bad that, like kids, like little girls, whatever, pulling carts in the mines and these sorts of things. And because they started so young, that there was all these pelvic disorders among women for like a generation after that.
Good
after it was ended,
grief.
and many children died in childbirth because of deformations that their mothers had gotten working in the mines as children. So yeah, those of us who like to coast by on 4 hours of work and 4 hours of YouTube a day, we have it quite easy.
Yeah.
We should probably be grateful we aren't down to mines, with our kids.
There's a lot of YouTube to get to. You got to get a Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. Megyn Kelly.
No,
Right.
right. You are this close to a glassing.
You can lean right before you lean left. Balance.
No, Elon Musk.
But the Industrial Revolution, very clever to bring an Industrial Revolution fact on the show. And, I wonder, the nursery rhymes have got some deep meanings and stuff.
I think they've been applied retroactively. I think some of them just sounded nice. Like Ring a Ring a Rosie, some people say it's about the bubonic plague. But it isn't. It isn't about the bubonic plague.
It's about like a tissue will fall down.
Yeah, just some nonsense. Just some medieval peasant garbage. What it is.
You don't think... Do you know Diddle Diddle Dumpling, My Son John?
We'll exactly listen to that. It's
went
ridiculous.
to bed with his trousers on.
Yeah.
One shoe off and one shoe on.
Is this about like King John? Is this what they're saying?
Diddle Dumpling, My Son John. No, I think it's about the Industrial Revolution and a kid named My Son John who went to bed with his he was too tired, couldn't even take his trousers off. So he went to bed with his trousers on. He was so tired and exhausted from his 16 hours of work that he took one shoe off and collapsed on the bed.
All right, now hear my thing. Hear my theory. It's about Jeffrey Epstein. Because it's diddle diddle. Disgusting. They must, Ghislaine Maxwell must be the only woman who's ever been convicted of prostituting people to no one.
Wow, to no one.
Yeah, to no one. There's nobody who ever actually slept with those little girls.
Really?
has been brought to justice. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
It is weird, isn't it? Anyway, I don't want to wind up dead in an American prison cell. So let's move rapidly on, shall we?
Multiple choice time. Mine's quite a corny revolution fact, eh? The old Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, prototypical stereotype revolution.
Yeah.
It's not the French Revolution, it's the Russians, isn't it?
No, so
Isn't it?
typical.
Old
I
Tsar
have to
Nicholas.
mention it.
You know, he was King George's cousin, I think.
That's
And they looked
right.
almost exactly the same. Yeah, you know.
You've been watching The Crown, haven't you?
No,
have.
no, I haven't. I just happen to know things without watching things on Netflix. It's an astounding thing called an education.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah,
Well,
like a classical education that
that's-
taught me things before I saw it on Netflix.
sure. No,
You know, I got quite on that. I got quite unhappy recently because one of our very early episodes, we were talking about the Pepsi giveaway for the jet, and now it's a Netflix documentary.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're watching us.
They're watching us.
watching us, and they're turning.
along with-
It's a reciprocal relationship, us and Netflix.
Along with
yeah.
our 500,000 other subscribers, which is awesome. And so we've gone Russian, we've gone Tsar, yes, and Crown. It turns out that they do cover a story about that, and because of the link between Prince Philip and the Tsarina or the Tsar. But of course, we know the famous story. Terrible. They were shot to death, the whole royal family.
Right.
And then was that funny story about one of the girls escaping, running through the forest, and emerging some 30 years later in Germany as Anastasia, the Tsar's daughter. Yes. And I think we all know it's been shown to be a load of bollocks. But for me, what was fascinating was, why did the myth endure? Like, and it turns out a lot of well-known people believed her, including Lord Mountbatten, Sergei Rachmaninoff. He'd fled the Russian communist thing and was in New York. So it started as she was in an asylum and mentioned to the one nurse. She said, "Oh my gosh, I think she's right. Look at the picture." And then people came to visit. So many royals came to visit, and they all had an opinion. Like, it's garbage. Like, oh, I think so. And the one quote is hysterical. It's like, the mouth has changed and coarsened noticeably, and because the face is so lean, the nose looks bigger than it was. But besides all that, she's definitely Anastasia. That was like the doctor's assistant. So she had this weird life jumping between
I think the thing is,
Europe and America.
people are desperate to believe. You know, I think a lot of scams are things that people want to believe. You know, I
Yes.
think the most successful scams are things where people get told a lie that they want. You know, like a lot of cults. They want to believe that there's something greater than themselves. They want to believe that there's some spiritual attainment. They want to believe that there's something bigger than them, than their grotty day-to-day existence, you know. And, you know, they want to believe that there is a Nigerian prince who's got $1 billion that he's just wants to give to them. You know, it's things that people desperately want to believe. And I think this thing was such a romantic story that I think people wanted to believe it. It's a little bit like, what's her name, the Russian heiress who recently went to jail. Also a Netflix documentary.
Okay, I have heard about
that. Anna, what's her name? Anyway, people want to
believed it.
believe it. Yeah, they want to. There's you know, we want a bit of romance in our lives. We want a bit of excitement in our lives. And I think these stories like Anastasia, they give you that romance and that excitement in your life. You know, you want to believe that one of the Russian Tsar's children survived this horrific event.
Indeed. And so it is multiple choice time. She died in 1984 in Charlottesville, Virginia. And like you're saying, people wanted to believe. I think the other motive for keeping the story going was people, the one chap even married her, people, I thought, if this is true, there's going to be a bit of a claim of an inheritance because there's a bit of a dynasty there. And so if I marry her, hey, or whatever, or you know, lead this campaign, there'll be some loot in it for me. So that was one of the other unfortunate. But my multiple choice question is, at her death, what was her name? What was her name at her death? Was it Anastasia Tchaikovsky?
I think it was Jacques Callis. Great South African middle order batsman and bowler, Jacques Callis. She took 400 wickets on her. No.
That's no myth. It's a beautiful.
No, that's a legend. That's what that is.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. The first one again. What was her name at her death? This lady we're talking about.
Yeah.
Was it Anastasia Tchaikovsky? Was it Francesca Shanskowska? Was it Anastasia Monahan? Or was it Fräulein Unbekannt? Ask me what that means.
No, that's spelled me. There are words we say here and there are words we will not.
How was your Afrikaans at school? Dietz, what does onbekend sound like? Ja, daar sê, dis niks fail nie. Onbekend means unbekend. It is Fräulein Unbekannt means unknown lady.
Right.
So it was Anastasia Tchaikovsky, Francesca Shanskowska, Anastasia Monahan, or Fräulein Unbekannt.
So first one I'm going to rule out because you already said Rachmaninoff, so I think you made it up with Rachmaninoff in your head and you went all Tchaikovsky because that was the only other composer, Russian composer you could think of, right? So let's banish that one, right? Done. I think you've doubled down on yourself. Fräulein Unbekannt. You did that as a joke and then you thought, no, Warren's going to guess this because I've been too smart with this and I'm going to explain it instead as a joke. So that's out. Now we've got Anastasia.
Closing my eyes to not reveal the windows to my soul.
Then we're going to say Anastasia, what's his face, whose surname you could not pronounce, which is interesting. I think that's a little bit of a giveaway. And then Fräulein, no, what was it? It was Mannerheim, something. Anastasia Mannerheim, which I think you thought about because you were like, oh, look, it's an Anastasia who showed up in Germany. This is what she probably. It's the second one, Ryan. That's what it is. It's the second one, and that's what I'm going
Francesca Shanskowska.
Shanskowska, yeah.
You're going your final answer, please.
Yes, it's that one.
Francesca, and you was some great work there. Some great wazzo psycho babble happening and detective.
All that matters is it right?
No, it's wrong. It's wrong, but brilliant. So the Anastasia Tchaikovsky, believe it or not, at some point she named herself that. Anastasia Tchaikovsky. Such a common surname for a Russian.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah.
She'd only heard. This is the thing. She was faking it. So the only Russian surname she knew was Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
She was
the name Francesca Shanskowska is who they believe she really was. A Polish factory worker.
So then she did die with that as her name.
No. When she died, her name was...
Definitely not. You're wrong.
No.
I'm taking my points and damn you, Warren.
Fräulein Unbekannt was... I love saying that. So she was picked up in Germany after attempting suicide, jumping into a canal, and then they fished her out.
And that's what they called her.
Fräulein Unbekannt, yeah. But she married an American in Charlottesville, Virginia, who was a very troubled marriage, but he was stuck by her because he thought, finally, someday we're gonna get our loot from this Princess Anastasia. And when she died, her name was Anastasia Monahan, married to a Yank, Virginia, Charlottesville. That's the final answer, not Francesca Shanskowska.
Oh, there we are.
Very good work, but you're wrong.
Interesting. I mean, the fact that I loved the most out of the whole thing was the German for John Doe or Jane Doe is Fräulein Unbekannt. That's the German for Jane Doe. I love it. It's brilliant. I'm going back to death and mutilation here, Ryan.
Yeah.
Which was the bloodiest revolution in history? Was it the Taiping Rebellion from 1850 to 1864? Was it the French Revolution? Was it the Russian Civil War? Was it the French Revolution or the American Civil War? Which one was it?
Tell me about that Taiping thing. Where was that again?
The Taiping Rebellion. It was against the Qing dynasty.
I was basically
in China, yeah.
very much Russian. But
No, it was in China,
It
yeah.
wasn't the Red Revolution, eh?
No, it's the Taiping Rebellion was against the Qing Dynasty in China. Then there's the Russian Civil War is what it's called. It's not called the Russian Revolution. It's called the Russian Civil War, obviously. And then the French Revolution or the American Civil War.
Okay, so you've given an indication about French. It looked like a number of about 45,000, I think.
No, that's how many were guillotined.
Yeah.
Remember, there was war. There was
Napoleon
fighting.
was shortly after that and stuff.
Yeah, no, there was fighting. There was a revolution in the Revolutionary Wars.
Yes.
So yeah, I've included the deaths in both the Revolution and the Revolutionary Wars in the French Revolution.
Obviously, I know a little bit about the three sort of Western ones. Don't know about that.
The Taiping Rebellion. Yeah, no, I put that in there because it was typing, and I couldn't resist. No, I mean it might be the real thing. I might have put that.
If it's typing, I'll park that.
No. I might have put that in there, Vic.
Yes, no, for sure.
Because it's legit. I probably did actually.
What would I say if it was the other three? Would it be Russian, French, or American? I would have to say Russian was the bloodiest. But is it bloodier than typing? I'm going to say no, because I don't know enough about typing, but I'm going to say no. I'm going with...
Typing, it was 144 words per minute. Like Hamilton.
I am going with the Russian Civil War as the bloodiest revolutionary war amongst your four options.
Okay, I mean it's interesting because the Russian Civil War is in fact the second bloodiest.
Oh,
yeah, 9 million people died during the Russian Revolution. Yeah.
Yes, like
yes, like it. You're like
that's the size of Gauteng, man.
Yeah, 9 million's a lot. 9 million's a lot of people. But listen, the Russians, they don't care. They love a casual massacring.
Oh,
if they get an opportunity to put someone in some foot wraps and some old boots and send them to war without a gun, they're gonna do it.
Paper mache, just hold it like
yeah. You say gun, gun.
Bang, bang.
Yeah.
What? Oh, he's firing at us. Hide. Okay.
Yeah, and then the third one, let's start the least bloody, was the American Civil War, which some people think it was quite bloody because like America's made so many movies about it.
Yeah, Custer.
Yeah,
Custer.
Well,
last stand, bang with his gun.
No, Custer wasn't. He was.
That was against
no. That wasn't.
Shucks.
No, that was against war against the native nations. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, the Civil War was only 620,000 dead only. Interestingly, though it's called the American Civil War, more French soldiers were killed in it than Americans, which is interesting. And then the third one on the list is obviously the French Revolution, which is 1.4 million people, of which, as we discussed earlier, like 45,000 were executed or were awaiting execution when they died in prison. And then the bloodiest is the Taiping Rebellion against the Qing dynasty. Yeah, it was led by a guy by the name of Hong Shi-Quan.
Yeah, we'll finish that one nicely.
Yeah. Okay, we're 5 minutes away.
Nearly finished, Asher.
You can listen to this last
Yeah,
fact.
you've
It's
been
quite
a good boy. You've been such a good boy.
Quite an interesting last fact. Okay. All right, are we ready? All right. So the bloodiest one was obviously the Taiping Rebellion against the Qing dynasty. It was led by a man by the name of Hong Shi-Quan, who launched a revolution when he came to the realization that he was in fact the younger brother of Jesus Christ.
No!
And he was going to drive the devils out of China. He titled himself the Heavenly King. It was a Christian revolution.
Whoa.
Now try and guess how many people died.
So sorry.
Yeah.
So it's more than 9 million.
Yeah.
Oh my! Okay, I'll go with this Christian militant missionary, 9.5 million.
Somewhere between 20 and 30 million died during his little
This must have been big time mainland, as in like Beijing area.
Yeah, they called themselves the Christian Millenarian Movement, and it was this
word.
They tried to overthrow the Qing dynasty.
Got the era there.
Yeah, so it's 1850 to 1864.
Oh.
So there you are. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how old he thought Mary and Joseph were at that stage. That he was Jesus' younger brother. He wasn't just casually toying with the truth here. He was full on balmy. He was full on.
All right, disciples, arm up.
What I love is so many people followed him. The 20 to 30 million people died. Anyway, that's probably why they don't like a Christian in China. Anyway, there you are.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I like me some revolutionary facts, but it is something we should try and keep in history.
I think what you should do is you should wear that beret a lot more often. Perhaps out,
Yes.
to clubs and stuff.
Yes.
On dates.
Does it make people want to have a revolution, though, or does it give them feelings of peace?
I don't know.
Agitation.
It makes me feel kind of angry, but it just could be me, I don't know.
Are you going to sharpen your sickle?
Anyway, we're reaching. It's nearly your shift. You've got to go and man a boom somewhere in a suburb.
This has been fun. Thanks for watching and listening. Thanks, Wazza. Thanks, Deets.
Thank you very much, Deets. Thank you, Ryan. This has been great.
I'd like to thank.
Subscribe, like, tell your friends.
I'd like to thank Deets and his surname. People don't know. Is unbekannt. Deets unbekannt. Thanks so much for.
Unbekannt.
Yes, like on YouTube and subscribe and also click.
And tell your friends and your enemies. Tell everyone. Write it on the wall near your school.
Thank you. Good day to you. Bye.